And welcome to our second February webinar with the Georgia Department of Education on virtual teaching and learning, student activities and assessments. I'm Megan Endicott, the General Music Community Lead here, and ready to get started with another wonderful segment today. I know that in our last webinar, I gave you a little glimpse into my classroom and how I strive to help my students feel connected and part of the classroom community, whether they're in the school or whether they're out of the school. And if you missed it, make sure you go back and you look at the first February webinar and check it out. Today, I thought we could get into a little bit of how I'm feeling with all of these changes and would love to hear how you're feeling. Maybe drop a line inside of the community discussion and let's talk about how we're overcoming some of these obstacles together. So, how's it been going in the year of 2020-2021 so far, you ask? Well, I know I'm definitely not alone when I say pivot is the motto of the year. This term has been used in so many places, from school level building meetings to district-wide meetings to state and national conferences, and even inside our own everyday conversations with colleagues. And while I'm always up for the new and exciting, I have a bit of trouble with change. And this year feels like a lot of change, and it was very fast. But we teachers have been working so hard in doing what we thought was impossible to keep learning for our students going at full speed. And with new adventures and challenges to tackle each day, we have no choice but to pivot. And that's okay. So while I know that we're doing what some have never ever done before, we're learning and we're growing like we have never before. So I remember ending the school year last year and then starting again this year, and we were heroes. You know, we were educators. We were what some deemed essential, and I know I loved it. It really kept the steam going and moving forward, and it kept me charged to find the newest and the best ideas for my students to keep learning relevant and to keep students engaged. And I was determined to keep music going and going strong. I even flipped to an online virtual classroom towards the end of the year with so many kids would have, so they had still continued opportunities to sing. And I made this whole big virtual chorus performance and posted it for the parents to view. And I was on top of the world, right? I held a school-wide video submissions for students to showcase all of their musical talents. And I just knew everything was going to be fine. It was totally fine. And we were just awesome. We got this. And boy, does it take a toll on a person or what, right? So finding that right configuration of technology gadgets to make teaching and planning successful is like playing a real tough game of Jenga sometimes. And by the end of the week, months, year, and the exhaustion that sets in. So how do we overcome these barriers to keep ourselves out of that rut that we sometimes will fall into? Well, honestly, I believe collaboration and community is a great place to be and a great place to start. Spaces like these in our community here with the Georgia Department of Education is an excellent place for us to come together. So when you feel like you're in a rut or you need help, let's use this space to do just that. Let's get ourselves out of the rut. Let's bring your friends and we can work together in one space to get us back into keeping music alive and keeping our students engaged in the learning. So that we don't feel like, is it Friday yet, right? So today I wanted to share some specific struggles and of course wins with you. Yay! No matter how long you've been teaching, you will always find something to celebrate and something maybe to work on for improvement. And that's what we teachers do. Every day we learn from each other's successes and in our struggles, and learning that piece is even more important. And learning from each other is the most beneficial way of learning and growing. And it helps us also not feel alone. So as you recall from my last webinar this month, one of my biggest successes was continuing to grow that social emotional learning environment in my classroom, because relationships do matter. Students want to feel validated, respected, heard, important. And I found this was especially difficult with so many kids in all the different places, some at home and some at school. So some tricks like just turning my camera around to face those face-to-face students so that our virtual kids at home could see them on the screen, or screen sharing the virtual kids in a spot where the kids at school could see them and they could see each other. Really helped tremendously in building that sense of belonging and togetherness. So I feel like that was a great win. So far, it seems to be coming together really nicely, and the kids are, they're just excited to see each other, and you can see it on their little faces. It's so cute, and I feel so good about that. But of course, with successes, we know come struggles, and one of my biggest struggles this year has obviously been student engagement. And I never thought I'd be the one to say that. Previously, when all of my students were in the building face-to-face, engagement, fortunately, was easy. I felt like, for the most part, I could see my students' faces. I could read their feelings. I could quickly offer support or redirection when needed. I was able to encourage them to participate. And generally they did, because, they were happy to be there. They were happy to be cared for, and that mutual respect. It was a great environment. But these are very different times and different things to tackle when we're working with these virtual students, especially the ones that have their cameras turned off, or their cameras facing in a totally different direction. You can't even see their face. I've had students choose not to log on to the synchronous class instruction, or maybe they didn't complete the asynchronous class assignments. So this has definitely proven a challenge. And when challenge presents itself, right, deep reflection is needed. I began to think about all of the possible scenarios that could be problematic for students at home, and even reached out to some of these families to better understand their own challenges. The biggest problem is that the caretakers that are home with the virtual students, they're not teachers, and they don't always know the content. And sometimes they don't even know the content. And that causes students to fall behind in their academics. And music is not on their list of things that they have the capacity to worry about when they have to worry about, all the things. Moreover, technology, we know, also can be a huge barrier causing students trouble when completing assignments. So how do we overcome this? This is a big problem. I think not just reflecting and reaching out to figure out what the problem is helpful, but, how do we actually tackle it? So one of the things that I began to do to help out was creating mini lessons to accompany my actual lessons. And this specifically was targeted at virtual learners, because the face-to-face learners have access to me. At any point during class or even before school, they can pop by my room during that little kind of homeroom time, if you want to call it that, and they could come by and ask me questions if they needed to. But I really felt that the virtual kids were lost, and there were so many, and there was so much need, that the mini lesson thing really helped. And we can do this in many different forms. So I have on this next slide a couple of examples of some of my mini lessons. So you can create a mini lesson and you can post it maybe on your website. You can offer a link or a video to the resource directly inside the assignment, which is actually probably the best way to do it. Or you might even just post it inside of your virtual classroom space. The mini lesson should not only include the learning target with several examples and opportunities to practice, but a detailed walkthrough of how you want them to complete their assignment. Anytime you can add an exemplar or what you want it to look like at the end is a great idea, because then it takes the mystery out of what the students need to be doing. It shows them exactly what their expectations are, giving them a checklist or rubric to go along with the activity, so they again know the end result. They know their expectations ahead of time. All very valuable opportunities to help the students at home who just don't have the same kind of support that they would if they were in your classroom. I found also then by doing this that my students' assignments, they were being submitted. Yay! And there was a decrease in questions, which is awesome. That's a great thing. It's a win-win. So I just kind of wanted to show you a couple of quick clips of some ways that I've been trying to reach my students to give them that embedded mini lesson or walkthrough tutorial of how to do things or how to engage them. This first one is a complete mini assessment, a mini assignment, asynchronous assignment for my students that were at home. And so we'll start it about right here just to give you an idea of what it is they're doing. Fun. Speaking of fun, Mr. Denny and I wanted to have a little fun too with some of our expression terms. So we have loud and we have soft. And so we're going to show you some loud and soft sounds that happen all around. In fact, right now you're going to hear soft. I'm curious to see what you guys have that is loud and soft around your house or your neighborhood. Maybe it's something that you can make with your own voice, an instrument, or maybe it's something you can make with a found sound. So excited to see your faces and hear your voices. Share those videos. All right, guys, see you soon. All right, Harper and Landon are going to show us loud. Don't you wish you had some of these at your house? This is Landon, and he's showing us soft. No. All right, this is loud. Harper being loud. Soft. All right, and I even got to drag in a little bit of fun with my co-director there, Mr. Denny at my school. When we were working on the snowman activity, I found that the students needed even extra support. So here is a video of me offering some extra support to get the students ready.
Look at the example here. This is what our finished product should look like. To get started, I need to make sure that you're prepared and you know the difference between steps and skips. So I'd like for you to please watch this video clip here. Simply click on the link to go where you need to go. Once you've watched that video, then I'd like for you to, now that we understand how steps and skips and lines and spaces are put on the staff, we need to understand how the solfege system works to create music. So watch this quick link and we'll check for understanding to see how music is placed on the staff in a specific order. Now I'll take a moment to help you get ready to create a piece of music. Here is a sneak preview as to what we will do. First, you will create a basic 4-beat rhythm on the bottom of the snowman. So we can draw, for example, a quarter note, maybe a pair of eighth notes.
And again, all of those videos were videos that I just created and dropped out there for access for students. Here is one more that talks to students about reading specific pitch syllables in the pentatonic scale.
Live for our 5 notes that we've learned. Do, re, mi, sol, la, sol, mi, re, do. So the solfege notes do, re, mi, and so, and la make the pentatonic scale. So if we were to write the pentatonic scale, we would have to write it in this order because that's the way we're asking you to write it down here. Do, re, mi, sol, la. So right above here, we'd write do in the space, re on the line above it, mi in the space above that. So as a skip, because we skip Grumpy Pa's house, remember she's on the line, so we put so in the space, and la is on the line just above it. We're going to do a little writing example. And we are going, so let's look and see this particular piece of music called Cats for Sale. I put all of our friends on vacation. So you're going to see here at the very beginning, we've got the first pitch here, it's on line 2. Well, this one's going to be so. So I've moved him down a lot. If so is on a line, who's always on the line below it? Remember, we're skipping the space, which means if the so is a boy, we're skipping a girl's house to get to the boy's house below.
There's many ways to offer explicit instruction for your students to help them learn and continue the process at home without having to worry about, do my parents understand how to do this, or my caretaker, they actually have that instruction that they need from me, the teacher. Another struggle that I think I've been having is how to interact with my students and how often. So here is a picture of what life used to look like. I would meet with my students once a week for 45 minutes. My interaction with students significantly changed this year, but not necessarily for the bad. A few years ago, I decided to ditch my traditional teacher's desk for a kidney table. This has been an exciting addition to my classroom as it's created a warm and welcome environment for my students to make connections with me and have a dedicated space they feel comfortable coming to for extra practice. This is much easier to incorporate than I ever imagined. So sometimes, as you can see, like in this picture, for example, there was a group of students who wanted that extra support on reading pitches on the staff. And there were some children that were ready to move on. So they were able to actually take their compositions and explore on barred instruments how to play it, knowing where do is and figuring out steps, skips, and repeats and making that magic happen. So I was able to give that direct, just-in-time instruction to the kids who needed it, and then I was able to let other kids excel or, offer enrichment opportunities and continue the learning that were ready for it. Now, while I miss pulling small groups and offering this just-in-time direct instruction, as you see here, to offer better support where needed, I found new ways to meet with my students that still remain meaningful. And here's one of those ways. This is what life looks like now for my student collaboration, at least with my virtual students. And even actually my students face-to-face still go back into the virtual classroom, and we have a lot of time together to talk and work things out. In my virtual classroom, I have them divided by grade level. These classes are organized by meeting spaces for classes and then drilled down to a space for things like weekly agenda, special announcements, and a one-stop location for assignments. These organized spaces help my students know exactly where to go and where to find what they need. Permissions have also been set so that students cannot go wild in the chat space, and they also are very clear and aware of my expectations for reaching out in these spaces, and these have been very clearly communicated. I even have a little chart we go over at the beginning of class. I will not use the chat to text message my friends, and we talk about how it's not a phone, it's a classroom space. And the students really respect that, and they've been doing a very good job in this space, with a few exceptions, right? We all have outliers that need reminders, and that is our job, to teach them how to be successful in those spaces. Now, there are two spaces of interest that I haven't mentioned yet, and I definitely would suggest that you create if you don't have a space like this for your virtual students. And it could be an email, it could be in your online classroom, it could be in a different platform. Whatever you in your district have worked out, think about a place where you can have the children ask questions. So as you can see on the left here, this is just a quick question. A student needed some help concerning assignment. Say, what is the activity called? Just a quick little message. And I was able to very quickly send a screenshot to help my student out. It's one thing to tell them what it's called, like I did here. It's quite the other to show them. And this was my little kids. This was a first grader that needed a lot of help with that. So anytime you can use pictures or images, that is the way to go. I was able to add that information. I also have notifications set to alert me on posts inside of that Ask a Question space. So that ensures that my responses are timely to my virtual students, since they're not able just to walk up and talk to me or ask me a question. So my availability to them looks a little different, and having notifications helps me be a little bit faster in reaching them. Having that quick response, of course, helps the student and the caretaker from having to wait and worry. Another space that I found to be very important for student interaction has been the teacher desk space. So depending on your virtual classroom, your setup might be a little different, but having some sort of private space where you can meet with small group for help sessions is really important. So rather than have them meet at my physical desk like you saw in the picture before, they can meet here in my virtual desk, and we can still accomplish the same goals and work with the students. It just looks a little different, but the end result is the same. So having that virtual teacher's desk has been a very important piece of my classroom. So what does teaching look like in 2020-21? I spent a little time reviewing the different teaching models that have been adopted during this school year in our last webinar, and I wonder often how much of this is here to stay, what's going to be carried on, and what will be left to the wayside. But regardless, we know that education's been changed, and this shift isn't necessarily for the bad, and I know I say that a lot. We have students that we're able to teach and reach in all sorts of different ways now. So if a student has to be out on medical leave, for example, we have the tools ready to assist them with that. And I don't know that I ever have imagined that being a possibility, or that the mass number of us would be prepared for things of this nature. And now we are. Currently, my teaching environment is a nice blend of some face-to-face, fully remote classes, some classes that are fully face-to-face, and some classes come to me simultaneous or hybrid model, where we've got kids at home and kids in the classroom. And this has posed a lot of planning challenges. And this is why it's important to teach with a remote first approach. So you're finding that common source of instruction and the common activities when possible, thinking about your remote learners first, because there's more limitations there. And this is really the only way to keep you from over-planning and overworking. And for more tips on remote first approach and careful planning, be sure to watch that first February webinar. Now I wanted to show you what my classroom used to look like. Look at all these sweet little faces. They're all face-to-face, and they're making musical moments together of singing and playing. And this is just two of many wonderful opportunities that I wanted to share with you, and I just grabbed them from my Twitter page. So let's just check out a couple of these sweet little moments with my students. Here's a 4th grade class.
2 scoops of rice. 2 scoops of rice. 2 cucharadas de arroz. 2 cucharadas de arroz. Ready, go. 3. 3 spoonfuls of beans. 3 spoonfuls of beans. 3 cucharadas de frijoles. 3 cucharadas de frijoles. Ready, go.
And here's another one of my cute 1st graders. We all love seeing these little ones. They are so cute and wonderful. But of course, now with an ability to share instruments in some cases, it's not been as easy to do that. And of course, creating some unique opportunities for students at home to still be able to make musical moments with you. We had to start thinking about things that are a little bit less I guess in the ordinary or less normal like we used to. And fortunately, these unique ways of reaching students and making music with technology has been possible. So there's several places that we can find virtual instruments online for students to engage with, so that students at home will have access. Well, we know students at home should have access to technology in most cases, not all cases, and they can play along with students at school. Of course, making sure that your students at school, if they're playing live instruments, are careful. That we're following the careful cleaning guidelines set forth by our district, and we can have them play in a blend so that they can still make music, kind of like you see right here. And you're going to see here that my students it's a 3rd grade class, and they are one-to-one with technology. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to try to make music in a different way. And so that when we have kids at home, or if I have, sharing, we don't have enough instruments to share, or cleaning the instruments is difficult, then I wanted to explore it with something new, and had some great success.
And a bunch of blue caps, and on the very top, a bunch of red caps. He walked up the street and he walked down the streets, holding himself very tall and straight so as not to upset his caps. And as he went along, he called. Ready, go. this time when he calls, he wants to hear you sing it while you call it. Ready? Are you going to sing with us? Ready? Go.
All right, so the children had a great time getting to play instruments along with their story, which was made possible by finding some things on technology on websites online. And this is very capable, something that you could possibly do with your classes as well. A new interesting idea, though, has come to light during our school year. For those teachers in a face-to-face environment, we know this all too well, and that is cleaning shared supplies. It's important to follow your district's safety guidelines if there have some in place, and when not, to check with the CDC guidelines for support. In my classroom, we know I use tape because tape is our friend. And I know you've heard me say that a lot. I have a solid red line taping off the section in my classroom with clean instruments. As you can see here, they are only touched by myself with clean, sanitized hands, and they've been carefully cleaned and placed in that location. These instruments include mostly unpitched instruments because they're the easiest to clean with the approved cleaning materials. But sometimes, of course, we can have other instruments that fall in this category that can be cleaned properly. And when the students are finished with the materials, they get to place them back on the back counter. Right here's where I have all of my kids drop off their things that need to be cleaned, and before I'm able to clean them and move them back to that clean section that's marked off with the tape. So it's a little process. The art teacher at my school felt that her supplies needed a trip to the supply hospital to stay in quarantine for a while. So whatever your plan is, make sure it's clearly communicated with your students, and why not have a little bit of fun with it, right? Like our art teacher. Students are already stressed out enough about all these changes and our procedures, and making it a little fun, gets the kids a little chuckle, and they enjoy it. So you can too have a supply hospital if you want. The last two discussion points of our webinar today will cover student activities or projects and assessments. Today, I'm excited to share a little fun rhythm activity I completed with my second grade students to experience basic rhythmic dictation and to check for understanding. Some of the students were working from home and some were working from school, and all found various resources to utilize to reach our goal. So we're going to start it a little ways into the class and watch just a little bit to get an idea of what the kids are doing at home.
Look how easy that was. All right, I've got for you the same picture you just saw, and I'm going to play with some Play-Doh with you, all of us together, because I am cooking today with rhythms and Play-Doh.
Well, we're not all of us. I'm the one that doesn't have the Play-Doh.
Well, Carolyn, do you have a piece of paper and a pencil, my darling?
I'm using a dry erase board instead.
Oh, my word. You are so resourceful and brilliant. I love it. I love it, Carolyn. How smart are you, my darling? All right, watch this.
Board too.
You do? Look, I look at you. You guys are being so, look, if you just wanted to see everybody and how smart and resourceful they are at home, look at them. Look. Everybody's pulling out stuff. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I love you guys. All right, here we go. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to say a rhythm, and you've got to build it. We're just going to do one row right now. Are you ready? Okay, here's the first one. Ready? Okay. Whew. It's really hot in my chef's hat today. Ta, 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 ta. So go ahead and build it on one row. Ta, 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 ta. Okay? Very nice. Very nice indeed. All right, I'm going to walk around and look at my friends at school. And you at home, make sure you got it. Oh, yep. Second graders. Okay, I'm going to make it hard next because this is too easy. Excellent. I see everybody at home. Hey, friends here at school, check your friends here at home. Look at theirs. Does it look like yours? Sure does. Sure does. I love it. It's perfect. Let's see everybody's. Love it. Excellent. Cool. All right. I'm going to stick mine in to match. So you should have 4 beautiful blobs on your paper. Play-Doh, giant Play-Doh, look like I'm ready to bake the cookies. Let's make it spicy this time.
Oh no.
A little spice, not quite. How about this one? Check it out. Ta, ta-dee, ta. Ooh. Ta, ta-dee, ta. How are we going to do this one? All right. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to figure it out, and then we will reveal the answer. Make it spicy. Ooh, I already see one, Nathaniel. Nathaniel is a rock star. Nathaniel is a rock star. Who else is a rock star? Ta, ta-dee, ta.
Endicott,
Yes.
I forgot the other ones. I only did the first one, but not the other ones.
That's quite all right, my friend. Can you do this one? Ta, ta-dee, ta. You can't remember the first one? Do the other ones you do know. Look at that. Holy guacamole. All right. I got some people ready. Let's look at our group here in class. All right. Excellent. There's a couple ways to do this. I think I'm going to copy Jessica. Jessica here in my classroom did this with her Play-Doh. She made a blob, and she poked a hole in it, and I think Willie even put a stem on it. He went, maybe. He did this. Well, they did stuff like this. Because this ta is a half note, and it gets 2 blocks. So I got to skip one, and then I got to do 2 little 8th notes. Ta-dee and ta. Now, it looks like it's a quiet space, like a quarter rest. That's a good observation here in class. It's not a quarter rest, though. What happened here at home? At school, they said, oh, this looks like a quarter rest. But what do we call this at home? Who knows? What happened here? Let's see. Alina, do you know what happened here? Hold on, let's see if Alina at home can tell us. Alina, what happened?
For accident, my hand was up.
Oh, you did? No worries. Dude, what happened?
I accidentally had my hand up.
You children, you're trying to play pranks on me. Carolyn, do you know, or are you just waving your hand up too? Because there's kids in this classroom that know.
I do know. I can't see it. I do know.
Okay, Carolyn, tell us. What happened?
It's because that's another note. It's not the same note. It's just that's just a wasted color on the inside. It's not the same note as the other one. Just a waste. It's not like that note is like another. It's like that note is not the same note as how. That's the sassy note.
That's the sassy note, right? And Nathaniel's showing us. Nathaniel, show us your board again. I'm gonna drag it over. Show us your board. So Nathaniel, unmute and tell us what's happening right here.
And so the kids, of course, realize that that's that one sassy note we've been learning about, and she takes up a lot of time. So you see that while the students might not have the exact same resources, with a remote-first approach, I'm still able to get the same common instruction, the common activity, but maybe the process of how it was done is a little bit different. Following this activity, I guess prior to this lesson, students were introduced to quarter notes and 8th notes, half notes, and quarter rests. And they're able to notate my dictated rhythms to them, their patterns, onto that sheet with the Play-Doh. After the lesson, which was the I do and we do, the students had an opportunity to make up their own rhythm patterns for a quick, short composition and a performance to show that they actually understood exactly how to do it. Students at home were able to record and share their compositions as an assignment, and the students in class could quickly perform one by one for me. So here's a couple of examples of students performing one by one. Here's our first student.
Ta, chi, chi, ta, chi, chi.
And you see, he's got a little bitty set of eighth notes here together. And here is our second example.
Ti ti ta ta ta.
Okay, so students were able to show and demonstrate basic rhythm, understanding, and composition really quickly with Play-Doh all together. I'm excited today to share with you some many ways that I assess students and would love to hear how you assess your students in the community chat. Take some time to share some ideas and actual assessment documents if you can in this community space. It's really helpful for each other if we can share, because sharing is caring. I will be dropping some things in the space for you to take and alter and make your own. And I hope that we all get to work together and see some more assessment ideas, even if there's just a quick drop a line and tell us about your assessment. Informal and formative checks are a must, and they can easily be tossed in throughout a whole class period. Sometimes just using those quick show of hands or a quick movement can be a visual way to informally check for understanding. This data can help you, of course, decide if your students are ready to move on or repeat the material or content. It could be something that can be done both with your face-to-face students and your online students. So, for example, here is a musical phrase. Did it, one finger, move upward, two fingers, move downward, or three fingers stay the same? Please hold up your answers into your camera or hold it right in front. So students in class, face-to-face, would hold it right in front. Sometimes they hide their answer a little bit. And students online could show me right into their camera and give me their answers. Or you could say something like, I'm going to play this phrase again. I want you to move your body to match the melodic direction. So the students could move their bodies upward on the camera or face-to-face, or they could move their bodies downward, or they could find ways to stay the same. And you could visually very quickly look for the student responses to see if they're understanding, and it helps you better gauge what to do next. Ticket out the doors are a great way to either informally or formally assess students. These can be simple, quick responses, like you can see here, where it's, clap this rhythm on your way out. It could also be something where you have them do a performance task where they need to sing a quick pentatonic rhythm pattern or a solami pattern. Quick performance tasks are great. It could be another one of those A, B, or C that's displayed on the board, or 1, 2, 3, and they come out with their answers as they're walking out the door to give you a quick check. For these performance tasks, I suggest you stand outside your door just a bit, maybe around the corner, and as the students step out, have them step out one by one, do their little performance quietly, and then go and stand in another line, maybe in the hall, and then bring the next one out and go quickly through them. It actually goes faster than you can imagine. And if you step over just a little bit, you're going to get the student's interpretation and not what the kid did before them per se, right? Because how many times did they just copy their neighbor? And they all say 1 when the answer is 3 because the first person said 1. So just that quick little tip of stepping to the side really can help you with getting a little more of an authentic answer. Students at home can also share their performance tasks by recording their responses and sharing it through an online assignment or, whatever platform that you use to collect videos. Short answer responses are another great way to have a ticket out the door and get a little more information from your students. So I have a poster on my wall that just basically is Post-it notes or little cut pieces of paper on a giant poster that have been laminated and numbered to match the student's seat number. Everything in my classroom and life is organized by number, so all students have a number. It's where they sit, has ties to these things, ties to games. So numbers are awesome. So they would then, at the end of class, have a Post-it note. They would write their little short answer response and then stick it on their number on their way out. That also tells me, if someone try to sneak out without giving me a response, but it also gives me an idea of what that student was thinking when they left and if they were on target or not on target. Students at home can also use the chat space in your virtual classroom. So if they won't have the same ticket out the door, but they can leave you a short answer response. There's a lot of online platforms too that are very user-friendly that a lot of you probably use yourself and can think of off the top of your head, where they could enter a short answer response to collect information for you to use as your ticket out the door. Love tickets out the door. Another quick thing here, you'll see right here by my picture at the bottom. I usually give a little bit of a self-reflection on behavior. At the beginning of the day, I display all of our expectations and have students pick the one thing that they really want to work on as far as their own personal behavioral goal. And at the end of class, they would think about how they did on their goal. It's 100% self-reflection, and then give a high five slap on their way out to the hand that they felt they matched. Obviously, we can't do that right now in this environment, but when things get back to normal, my hands are coming back out because it was fascinating research to see how our students have that self-reflection piece. Sometimes you have those kids who are high performing that are very hard on themselves, and they always assess themselves lower than they actually performed. And then you have those little pumpkins that just sometimes have a difficult time, and they are like, I did awesome. And you know what? If that is what they need to do to own and feel proud of the one thing, because maybe they picked something that was very difficult for them and met that goal, it's a self-reflection. So we celebrate them all. It's just a neat, fun little way of seeing your kids responding different ways. I've had colleagues take the same concept though, and they've actually had answers A, B, and C just outside their door. So as their ticket out when they came out, they'd slap the A, B, or C on the hand to show which one they believed was the answer. So crazy assessments, ticket out the door, all sorts of options here. Now we look at this big, scary, formative assessment. It measures multiple learning targets. This is something that can be printed at school. It can be dropped on an online platform for students at home to complete. It can be put into a learning bundle or a worksheet packet to students who don't have access to technology. There's many ways to send a traditional document to all of your students. But this is a pretty hefty formative assessment. And so I wanted to just kind of bring this up because due to our current levels of stress levels of students, I wouldn't normally give this huge assessment such as this now. Rather, I've been chunking my assessments and spreading them out over the unit of study. And I found that this has been really helpful in having my students feel more successful and really a whole lot less overwhelmed. It's helped me as the teacher also stay up on quicker feedback because grading one of these and sitting down and doing all this is overwhelming, especially with the number of students that we teach. So, and I'm a firm believer in the feedback cycle. To truly be cyclical, right, the cycle process, the student must complete and submit the assignment. The teacher must offer feedback and return the work. And then the student should take the feedback and reflect or recover. And I know you've heard that word recovery. So this is where the student has the opportunity to learn from their mistakes or retake or make up that assignment for a better grade. Completing that feedback cycle actually helps our students learn from their mistakes. If we just gave them a grade on a piece of paper, or we gave them back a test grade or the sheet with just an X on it with what they missed, they're missing out on an opportunity to either learn what the correct answer was through trying it again or through your specific discussion on why that answer was right? The kids need to know the why. Okay, so I missed it, but why did I miss it? I think too often we're kind of like, it's wrong, I'm sorry. And then now we've got a gap in our learning. If we take just that extra little step to say, this is why or how, you can do that. A lot of times when we give quick assessments and we're doing something with an online program maybe where it automatically grades, there are times where a student can select the right answer and you can give them the reason for the rationale for why it's right, or if they select the wrong answer, the rationale of why it was wrong. Why was that a trick question for them? What could they have potentially thought when they answered that? And giving them that thought process and that rationale and making them read it and take a second to pause, again, it's building stronger students. And I know as music teachers, we have so many kids and you're thinking, Megan, you're crazy. You've lost your mind. But I think when you find those little technology tips and tricks and you have access and you have the ability, that's really helpful. And I also love Post-it notes. Okay. So I have pieces of paper and really quickly, it's not hard just to go and then put in a little Post-it note. The other thing that you can do is do a full class review. Okay, guys, here's the answers. You know, this, if you got it right, this is what you picked. If you got it wrong, this is what you did. And this is why. Look at your paper and let's look and think about it. You can also do something where you have a ready-made sheet of paper because you have the frequent flyers of kids that are missing the same questions. You could just take those answers and clip them on and send them back. So you can save yourself some time and have those ready printed, things of that nature. I will warn you though, if you notice that there's a question that all the kids are getting wrong all the time, you might want to check your question because there could be something wrong with the way it was worded. Maybe it was something you didn't cover or teach. But that's kind of almost a reflection too on instruction and how can I make that better if all the kids are missing the same thing. In this last one, I talked earlier about, giving the kids exemplars and giving them an opportunity to really see what is it that they need to do. What is it supposed to look like? And rubrics are a great way of doing that. So without giving them an example of something that's been done, this is a way to give them a checklist. But I will say that rubrics can be very overwhelming for students if they don't understand how to ignore all of these categories and focus on the excellent category. That's what I always told myself as a student. What does my excellent category need to look like? So students can be overwhelmed by this. You could take this and turn it into a checklist, and that sometimes makes things a little bit easier to see, follow along, check the box, and move on. But this is an example of a summative assessment on pentatonic composition with my fourth graders. Here are some of the learning targets, things that we've been talking about that I want them to be successful with, that is written in language and terms that they know and understand and ties to specifically to the activities that we learned throughout the unit. So they can't think, I don't think we learned that. They can look and say, oh, we did do those things. A couple of other things, right? Clear directions. There were a lot of directions here. So that's one of those things where it's nice to make sure you break it down and you talk to the kids. On the side, notice how there's a connection to the standard so that the students know, so that you yourself know too exactly which standard is it aligned to, and is it aligned to a standard. If you notice that some of the things that you're putting on your rubrics don't align to a standard, then probably won't want to grade on those things. You want to think about which standard is it that you're focusing on, and you kind of want to make sure that they all fit together. You never want to assess on so many various, very big different standards all the time. It's too much for the kids. So you think about chunking those as well, especially now with all the learning loss that's going on. And of course, I'll be happy to share all of these things with you guys, along with the video inside of our community chat. And how do we keep in touch? Well, you can keep in touch with me right here inside of the Georgia Department of Education community. I look forward to this two-way conversation. I want us to share and learn and grow from each other. It's a very exciting time for us to have this platform, and I really want us to utilize it. Please bring 14,000 friends, because all the friends you have and more. Even find the strange music teacher around the corner you never met before and just tell them they need to join. So we'll all come together. We'll have a place to meet and work together. You can also follow me on Twitter. Again, big fan of Twitter. We'll talk about advocacy and in ways we can use some of these platforms to really promote your programs, promote yourselves, and things like that in a coming up webinar. You can follow me on Instagram. A little weak in that area, but I do have an Instagram account. We can stay in touch that way. I also have a YouTube channel where some of the resources that you will see on some of the webinars can be found. So if you found an instructional video you think is interesting, you can check out my YouTube site and you can borrow whatever you need. Also, there is my website, www.dolvinmusicendicott.blogspot.com. If you check out the student tab, there's also a lot of great places for you to grab some resources there, or just ideas. Sometimes you know, looking at what you have access to, you can take some things and plug it into your current situation that's good for you, your district, and your students. So check those things out. And don't forget to follow our fine arts community, our fine arts team. We've got Jess Booth, this is her information, Paul McLean, and of course Casey Hall. So make sure you follow these folks, and their email addresses can be found here as well. And follow some of the excitement on the Georgia Department of Education community and their social media handles here. I can't wait for our next one, you guys, and I can't wait to continue the conversation in the chat space. Talk to you later. Bye.